Today I want to talk about unconditional love and how we are able to realistically practice what it means to kind of exude unconditional love. I recently had a friend tell me that he thought that the only people that truly unconditionally love you are probably your parents, that it's basically impossible to kind of attain unconditional love from your partner or friends, romantic relationships. Basically, stating that relationships are transactional. You don't truly unconditionally love your partner. The only person that could offer you that is your parents. Now, honestly, with how the world operates this day and age, I could say that this friend might have a point. You have to view the world and view people in a very specific way if you want to try practicing unconditional love to more than just your family. I think the reason we cannot give someone unconditional love, whether that's like a friend or a boyfriend or girlfriend, the reason we can't give them that is because we do expect them to be a certain way in order to earn our love, and vice versa. We think unless you treat me like this and you are like this, then I won't love you the same way anymore. So you have to show up a certain way, and then I'll offer you my love and attention. And in this case, my friend does have a point. If you operate like this, then yes, everything is transactional. Even your relationships, it's not truly based on unconditional love. It's based on you getting what you expect that person to be offering you. My whole point of view is I think you actually can practice unconditional love to more than just your parents and your family. But yes, you're gonna have to change a lot about yourself. You're going to have to change a lot about how you view relationships. I think people's biggest problem in this is we are in love with people's potential. We say that we are in love with this person, but we are always waiting for them to change. And in that case, yeah, you're right. You don't unconditionally love that person. You don't love them for who they actually are. You love them for the mental imagination you've come up in your head about them, and you're just constantly projecting that onto them. So, in that case, you can't unconditionally love that partner because you're not accepting them for who they truly are. I think for me, what I've realized is one of the key fundamentals to practicing unconditional love for people is accepting them for who they are and how they show up. Not trying to change them, not trying to fix them, not backing away or making your love conditional if they don't show up a certain way for you. And I mean, if you can even look back at your relationships or just see all the relationships around you, I think this is like more than just a personal issue, it's a societal issue. Nobody really dates. Nobody really wants to date the person they end up picking. They always want them to change and then they stick around. It's more so you're attached, you have feelings for that person, but that's not true unconditional love for that person. Because true unconditional love, I think, is fully accepting you for who you are. Now, I think we have to understand that there's nuances here. Just because I accept you for who you are doesn't mean I stay with you if I feel like I'm not being shown respect in a relationship. And this goes back to the whole notion of everything is transactional, all relationships are transactional, because if you're not being given a certain treatment, you're gonna leave. But I beg to differ. I don't think that that's this case. I mean, I'm sure you can look at it like that, but what I am proposing is wanting to be treated a certain way and backing out of a relationship because you're not being treated a certain way. I don't think that's transactional. I think that's having a preference and either energetically connecting with that person or not energetically connecting with them anymore. And where I believe unconditional love plays into that is you don't ask that person to change. You just remove yourself. And in removing yourself, you still have unconditional care and love for that person, but you no longer resonate with them enough to be with them. That's what I think an example of unconditional love looks like. I don't really believe that means that love is transactional. I think the love becomes transactional because you are staying in this relationship with someone who isn't giving you what you need, and in return, you may pick a fight, ignore them, not offer the love you usually do because they're not treating you the way you want them to. That's how I view relationships that become transactional. I don't think that's you truly loving the person you're with. I think that's you attached to the person you're with and constantly projecting an imaginary version of them onto them that doesn't even exist. Like I said, I think expecting someone to be someone they're not, to change, to show up differently for you, I think that's the opposite of unconditional love, because at the base root of unconditional love is accepting you for who you are. And if it does not resonate with me, I'm going to remove myself. That doesn't mean I hate you. That doesn't mean I despise you. That doesn't mean I don't care about you. It just means that I am removing myself. That's it. And understand that navigating relationships like this doesn't mean you're not allowed to have expectations and standards. But to me, I don't really frame it that way. I just frame it in a way where I have preferences. I like to be treated a certain way, and I like certain characteristics in people, whether that be how they talk, whether that be how they handle conflict, whether that be their love language, whether that be their career. I'm just listing things that people might care about. You have preferences, and then you choose the person if they fit those preferences. You don't choose a person that has some preferences and then think you can mold them to be into a person that you have thought up in your head, because that's not them. You don't, again, that's the opposite of unconditional love. You don't love that person. You chose a person and now you're just projecting what you want them to be onto them, and then you get upset that they aren't showing up that way for you. I really, really emphasize the importance of accepting people for who they are, because if you can learn how to accept people for who they are, I think it gets you closer to learning how to love people unconditionally. I think the moment I want to change you, change the way you are, change your values, change your belief systems, change how you solve conflict, even though you've solved conflict like that your whole entire life, and I'm not your therapist. It's not my job to completely change everything about you. The more I want to do that, the more I've never accepted you for who you are. And again, in my words, there's always nuances. You have to understand context. This doesn't mean that once you maneuver life this way, you're finally going to find someone who fits all your preferences and who is perfect and who you never have conflict with or never want to talk things through with. That's not what this means. What I think it means is the person you pick, the values, their temperament, the way they conflict resolve, how they come across, how they treat you when they're upset, those are very core fundamental attributes of a person. That doesn't mean they can't change. That doesn't mean that they can't learn. But if someone operates this way, let's say they operate like the letter A and you want them to operate like the letter B, that's a completely different type of person. And again, that goes into the notion of you don't accept them for who they are and who they're showing up as. You see them and you think you're good enough for me to change. So please turn into the person that I have made up in my head. And that's what I'm trying to explain. We don't want to pick people based off of their potential. We pick people based off of what we are willing to maneuver through with. I say that because no one's perfect. Every single person has trauma. Every single person has wounds. Every single person has some faulty conflict resolving skills. Unless you are extremely good at analyzing yourself and have gone to therapy your whole entire life, chances are you're gonna have some issues, maybe not treat your partner the best, or have a bad day, or have a bad communication moment when solving conflict. So that doesn't mean that you're expecting someone to be perfect. But what that means is you're choosing someone with enough compatible fundamentals and a similar frame of mind to you so that when you guys do conflict resolve, when you guys do talk, when you guys do want to grow, it's easier and you guys can help each other grow and you're not just constantly wanting to change that person because they think so differently from you. Another reason it's so hard to love people unconditionally in this society is because nobody knows how to love themselves unconditionally first. So, if you don't know how to love yourself unconditionally first, you will be looking for that in everyone else. So, again, unconsciously, you are not with that person because you love them. Maybe that could be part of it, but not fully. You're also with that person because what they are offering you. Because until you are okay with yourself, until you are okay with silence and stillness and being on your own, and not just being on your own, but truly loving and accepting yourself for everything you are, until you've reached that point, you will be looking for that sense of security in your romantic partners that you pick. So, just by default, unconsciously, you don't love them for them. You love them because they are filling some sort of gap in your spirit. And that goes into why you constantly want to change the person, why you constantly get upset if they don't give you certain treatment or if they don't answer you, because you're not accepting them for who they are, because to you what's more important is getting the love that you think you deserve from them. As long as you care more about the love you think you deserve from your partner, as long as that comes first, the less you'll ever be able to accept who that partner is truly and what they even offer you in the first place. Because when you truly unconditionally love yourself and you accept yourself and you feel completely whole within yourself, you then start picking people for who they actually are. You don't really pick people for what they have to offer you because you no longer get a dopamine spike when they call you pretty. You no longer feel only good about yourself when they like your photo or comment on your post. You no longer feel sexy whenever they want to kiss you, when they want to compliment you. Nothing is based off of their attention to you anymore or what they can offer you. So now what do you have left? Appreciating that person for everything they are and then experiencing life with them. That's what I think unconditional love can look like. But it starts with learning how to give that to yourself first. So, noting my friend's statement about how love is transactional, you only get unconditional love from your parents. It's impossible for anyone who's not your family to love you unconditionally. Honestly, with how society is, yeah, I can see that point of view, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. I think we just have never learned how to maneuver love healthily. So, yes, it becomes transactional. It becomes what can you do for me and how can you treat me? And if you can do everything I want you to do, then I'll stay with you. And yeah, if your love life is like that, it is transactional. I can understand that. But I'm a firm believer that that does not have to be how relationships are. And I think if you train your mind and you really self analyze why you're picking people, you can become the type of person that learns how to love people unconditionally and love them for exactly how they are and how they're showing up to you. And I ask myself a question in this, well, what does that mean if that person is not treating you the best and you do want to break up with them? Does that mean you don't unconditionally love them anymore? And I don't suppose so. I think in that case, if you genuinely don't base your worth and how someone's treating you, I think in that case you can see how someone's treating you and just think, wow, that has nothing to do with me and everything to do with how you were raised, what your values and convictions are, how you choose to communicate, and I don't really enjoy it. So I think I'm gonna part from this relationship. I still care about you, but this isn't for me anymore. Like, I think that's an example of unconditional love and unconditional care. The reason why it's super hard to do that usually is because we are taught, I don't want to say taught like, nobody's telling you it has to be this way, but just through how we see everyone operate, we are taught that in order to get over someone or move on from a relationship, you have to feel angry at them and you have to hate them and you have to feel like they betrayed you and you have to get angry and upset and insecure and feel that disappointment so that you can move on. I don't think that that is true. I think we are programmed to automatically go that way in our mind because our mind learns through experiences and through the narratives we create in our head. And if our mind has experienced in the past that it was way easier to get over our ex because we developed a whole angry narrative about him and it made us move on faster, it will keep taking that neural pathway every time you go through a breakup. So then you think it's necessary to get angry, to take things personally, to feel so disappointed in someone in order to let yourself break up with them. And that's how I believe a lot of the world functions when someone has done wrong. It's like they have to feel the betrayal and that hurt in order to leave. Because if they just look at it neutrally and just look at it, you acted that way, that didn't really feel so great. I don't really want to be here. It doesn't have enough emotional impact to really make you leave, to really make you break up with that person. At least that's what I'm gathering by watching how people maneuver through breakups. It seems like the reason we get so angry and so disappointed and develop such intense narratives whenever we're being treated poorly, it's because those intense emotions remind us of how hurt we are, and it reminds us that we need to leave so we don't feel this again. And that is why it's really hard for you to still have unconditional care for your ex, because you had to personalize the breakup in order to leave. So of course you can't keep unconditional care for your ex, unconditional love for a person despite how they treated you, because you had to personalize the whole entire thing in order to gather up the strength to leave. But the idea I'm proposing is, what if you didn't have to create such an angry narrative? What if you didn't have to feel so betrayed? What if you didn't have to let yourself get so disappointed and so angry in order to leave? What if you can train your mind to watch someone disrespect you and learn your bodily cues enough to know when enough is enough? When this no longer feels good anymore, and intuitively, I don't want to stick around. What if you train your mind and body to process mismatches that way? Instead of waiting till you get so angry, until waiting that you have to develop a whole narrative in order to leave. So, what if you can practice holding your boundaries and leaving as soon as you see something that you know isn't going to resonate with you for the rest of this relationship? And because you know you don't want to change that person because you accept people for who they are, you see, okay, your communication style is not like mine, and I'm not here to teach you how to stop yelling at me. I'm not here to teach you how to communicate and not ignore me constantly, because those things don't go away in one conflict. Those types of behaviors are very deeply rooted. And unless you want to take on that responsibility, then that's fine. If you want to take on that responsibility to help that person go through that, then you need to accept them for how they are showing up. And it's hard to do that and not build up resentment. That's why I keep saying to pick people for how they are showing up and not the potential of them, like not the imagination you have created in their head, created in your own head. So what if you did leave at those first instances of realizing that your values and your levels of integrity and your conflict resolutions don't align, and you also don't take it personally, and you don't ask that person to change, and you step away? I think that if you maneuver life like that, you can still unconditionally love and care for that person while just knowing that I don't want to be with you. But that doesn't mean I feel insecure. That doesn't mean I feel betrayed by you. That doesn't mean I'm going to get so angry at you and create a whole narrative, because I didn't need to do that to move on. Because I know the way you are has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with how much you love me. It has nothing to do with what I deserve from you. And that's the thing. It's really hard to think like that because everyone ties their worth and the love in how people are treating you. I really am saying this from a psychological perspective. If someone is treating you poorly, it's not because you're unlovable. It's because that person has issues. But because we don't see it that way, we take everything so personally. And that's why the breakup becomes this emotionally charged thing. And no, you can't unconditionally love that person after that breakup because you had to take it personally to leave in the first place. Does that make sense? Instead of seeing things for how they are and thinking, oh, you're this way, and I don't really enjoy it when you're this way, and I think it's gonna affect me long term if I stick around, I'm just gonna leave. People don't operate like that. And I'm sure that's due to the chemicals in your brain when you are attached to someone, especially if sex is involved, and how you pick people in the first place. If you can't operate neutrally like that, if you can't step away and not make it mean anything about your worth, you will stay stuck in this loop. Psychologically, you won't ever know how to love someone unconditionally because the love in the first place was conditional, based on what you expected of them and what you think you were owed in order to feel worthy. That was a mouthful for me. So yeah, these are just my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for listening.